Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
Do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
I have an iPhone. Doug, I mean, we spent 20 minutes together. Who the hell do you think I am? Of course I have an iPhone.
So tell me, when the time is right, will you be ready for The Nice Guys on Business? Oh, yeah. Need an education on how to grow your business? The Nice Guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, Nice Guy community, welcome back. It is Monday. Hope everybody enjoyed your weekend as much as I did. My name is Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the microphone, Mr. Doug Sandler.
Hey. So I let me just start by just saying I don't have a really good time with the beginning of any month. You know why?
Why?
Because everything is zero at the beginning of the month. I start getting worried what's going to happen to the rest of the month until I start to see what we have done with this Nice Guy community and with our download count over the last 2 months. We bettered our January. We bettered our December downloads in January by, I think, over 5,000 or 6,000 downloads. Strick, that's
we ended up at 44,000 plus, right?
Yeah, almost 45 close. I think just 200 shy of 45,000. How are we going to beat that in the month of February?
Well, we just got to keep telling more Funkin' fans and C-suite network people about the podcast.
It's going to be so great. I love it.
By the way, Canada is creeping way ahead of the UK.
I saw that. Do you think that there's any? I think personally that a couple of our guests, like Pat Perdue, he and Nicole Holland, they're both Canadians. That's right? That's people from Canada are Canadians, right?
Canadians, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't sure what they were. It's just like goose and geese. I wasn't 100% sure if they were Canadians. Anyhow, so both Pat and Nicole are from Canada, Canadians, eh? And so I'm thinking maybe they really did a good job, and I know that Nicole did, and I know Pat does too because I keep getting guest requests from some of Pat's friends. So Canada definitely earning their badge and pulling away. That is okay, but so it's Canada versus all of Europe, or is it just Canada versus the UK?
The UK on our chart. The UK is a number of countries in Europe, but it's not all of Europe.
Yeah, don't tell Thomas. Hi, Thomas. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Don't tell Thomas that is he in Ireland?
Ireland, yes. Ireland is not part of the UK.
They may become a part of the UK one more time, right?
I don't know.
I just pissed off a whole bunch
Thomas, I'm going to apologize. Right up front for my terrible Irish accent.
No, that actually was pretty good. We got to get Tomas back on the show at some point because it's been. I think he wasn't on the show. He was on probably like in the late teens maybe of episodes.
That was single digits, double digits maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Early on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track there, but I figure let's start the Monday episode by getting way off track. Who's on the show today? Is it Thom Singer today?
Today we got Thom Singer, and it's THOMSINGER. Thom Singer is a keynote speaker, engaging audience guy. He's all about human engagement and potential.
Yeah, and Thom, as I like to call him.
Thom.
But it's not Thom.
I'm sure he really appreciates that too.
No, I called him Thom. I did it right every time. Thom is that would be a very challenging name. You know, did you ever see on Golden Pond?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'm not like 60 plus now.
I think it was. I want to say it was Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda. Now again, okay, so both of them, I got those both right. So on the show, her name is Ethel Thayer. Okay. Ethel Thayer. And Henry Fonda, I don't remember the exact quote, but hey, well, look at me coming up with the movie reference here, Strick. You haven't even seen the fucking movie. So
if I thought that you might come up with a movie reference, it would be On Golden Pond or like Cocoon or Driving Miss Daisy.
Wait, a river runs through it.
Exactly.
So Henry Fonda is talking to somebody in the movie, and it says, "Doesn't it sound like I have a lisp because my wife's name is Ethel Thayer?" And it's it's so true. So Thom does not have a lisp. Thom actually is a very good public speaker. He's a professional speaker. He's a podcaster. He's got this really, really cool podcast called Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. And that's really what attracted me to Thom to get him on the show to begin with, because if you have not listened to this show, if you don't know this show, Nice Guy Community, take a moment and check it out, because it really is all cool things that entrepreneurs do and the crazy ass that we all have in running our businesses. So anyway, that's what Thom is all about. And we actually have a sponsor. Is Julie sponsoring the show today?
Yes, we have our sponsor today, Miss Julie Reese.
Are you okay?
Gosh, didn't I do that before, Mr. Cheesy Whiz? What the heck, Miss Julie Reese?
Strick, you did tell me. You did tell me you were ultra prepared for today's recording.
Oh yeah, right. I'm totally prepared for today, just like every day.
Are you spilling M&Ms on?
I know, not spelling M&Ms on the computer today. No, none of that.
It's a win. I'll stop interrupting you. It's a win. Go. I'll shut up. Go.
Get a PhD in You. That is Julie's book, and it's kind of amazing. It really is all about self-discovery, and it's about getting to know yourself, and it's incredibly helpful to figure out what you're good at and what you're bad at. Now, you think you may know. You think you know yourself and like what you're really good at and where your shortcomings are, but you know what? Everybody's got blind spots, right, Doug? I mean, you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and the issue is that we are all, to a certain degree, we are all pretty self-destructive. Our own worst critics are ourselves. And Julie will help you stop the tapes, the things that are going off in your head over and over and over again. She's got a wonderful book called Get a PhD in You. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes. But we want to make sure that you understand that this book is not just for women. It is a book about improving yourself no matter who you are, no matter what you do, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work for a company, whether you feel like you're in a good position or not. Just take a look at the book, because I think that you'll be very surprised at the micro improvements that you can make for yourself in the tapes that are going off in your head, the self-talk that you have, and then you'll really make sure that you do yourself a good service by reading the book and by improving on your self-talk. It's really good.
Get a PhD in You is the book. You can get it right through the show notes. Just click on the link for Get a PhD in You, or go to the website, Get a PhD in You. Julie Reese, we should get to our interview now with Mr. Thom Singer. You think we're ready?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So Thom Singer, the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Before we get there, just one quick reminder. The Nice Guys on Business podcast is here because of the gracious and glory of our wonderful C-Suite radio network. We are affiliated with that network because that's kind of how we are. We're cool. All right, let's get to the interview. Mr. Thom Singer. We've done it again. We are bringing to the Nice Guys someone cooler, hipper, and more fun than us, of course. And what really fries my fritters is all of that is Thom Singer. He's a good guy, too, and he's a good-looking guy. Podcaster, entrepreneur, business coach, and friend to the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Welcome to the show, Thom.
Hey, Doug. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It is definitely an honor to have you on the show. Nice Guy Community, just so you're aware, Thom has he's got this way cool group coaching program that came out of his podcast called Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. Talk about the podcast, Thom, for a second, and share really the birth of this group coaching concept, which I thought was really cool.
So I started the podcast 2.5 years ago. I've done like 330 some odd episodes now, and it grew out of something that was on my blog. I used to write a thing once a week or thereabouts called Cool Things My Friends Do. And about 3 years ago, when podcasts were blowing up, everybody's like, oh, you got to turn Cool Things My Friends Do into a podcast. And I said, nobody cares what Thom Singer's friends do, out in the podcast world. And so it just sort of morphed. I went to a seminar and they said, if you ever feel stuck in your career and you want to get out of that rut, interview 50 people, and you will. And I literally thought, well, I'll do that on my blog. And I said, well, maybe I'll just do 50 interviews as a podcast. And now it's been almost 250, and it just keeps going. So it's called Cool Things Entrepreneurs Do. And I talk to entrepreneurs who are doing really cool stuff and how they sort of created their path. And listeners started contacting me and saying, do you do a group coaching program like some of the what I call more guru podcasters do? And I said, no. And enough people contacted me that I thought, I'll give it a shot. And I put this together. And I've got about 8 or 10 people who participate weekly on a group coaching call. We use zoom.us, and we all get on a video call. And everybody just shares. And it's a compilation of people who some are entrepreneurs, some want to be entrepreneurs, and we just have a lot of fun. And the great thing is it helps me with my business too.
You talk a lot about information overload and the technology in your programs. Can you share what the program is with, what it's kind of like with all the technology and noise going on around us? Because that's got to be there's so much blank space, but there's a lot of noise too.
Well, I mean, in the last 10 years, the world has so drastically changed because of social media. And I don't even think we've realized it in like our day-to-day lives, quite how noisy it's gotten. But when Twitter first came out, I used to, like I said, I wrote a blog. If I would post like an interesting blog post title on Twitter, I would get 100 or more hits to my blog when I look at my analytics. And now I have 10 times the Twitter followers, and I can post a link to something and I'll get no hits off Twitter. So there's just so much noise. Nobody's clicking through and things along those lines. So one of the things I talk about is, relationships and people are more than a like, a link, a share, and a follow. And so I try to work with people on the fact that we have to get back to this human side of business, and the people who are really building relationships, I think, are the ones who are rising above the noise.
I watched one of your I think it was one of your videos that was either on YouTube or on your website where you actually are holding your phone in your hand and you're talking about your dad and the experience that you had with your dad prior to email and everything else being a distraction. Is it as easy as just putting down your phone and stepping away from your computer?
It's just being aware. So what you're talking about with my dad is my dad passed away a couple of years ago at age 99, and we were very fortunate. He was very with it up until he was 99. And I was playing cards with him one time, and he was like 98 years old at the time, and he was just really slow at making a move on the card game. So I took out my phone and started checking email because that's what we do, right? I'm just waiting for him to make his move. And he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Thomas, put that away." And I said, "Dad, we live in this information age. People could be trying to hire me to come speak at their conference. I gotta be paying attention." And he said, "You know what? When you're with people, choose people." And I thought, oh my God, you hate to be schooled by the 98-year-old dad. But he was so right. And it's really a choice, right? So when we're at a conference, oftentimes, they break for coffee and donuts and everybody's standing around on their phones. And then later they complain, "Yeah, the networking wasn't so good at that conference." Well, no. You were the problem. Put your phone down, make eye contact, smile, and start a conversation. So I do believe it's not easy, but if you make an initiative to actually do it, it becomes easy.
Okay, and you make a valid point there. So let's talk about some good habits, some great action steps that can help people start right now, right here. Do you have anything that you have in mind that's just a good trick or a good? I hate to call them hacks because it really is the way that things should be. It's not the way things, that we have to work towards. So can you talk about some things right here, right now that somebody can do in order to develop some good habits?
Yeah, I think the first thing is admit to yourself that a like, a link, a share, and a follow isn't a friendship. It's not a connection with people, and it's not the same, right? I mean, if you look at my LinkedIn connections, I have, I don't know, however many 1,000+ people on LinkedIn. I'm connected to people who maybe I was on their podcast once and we decided to connect, and I'm also connected to my best friend who is my daughter's godfather. LinkedIn treats those the same. But the reality is that my best friend has been my best friend since we were 18 years old. So, I've known him for 32 years. Someone else I may have spent 20 minutes on their podcast. So you have to realize that a link is not equal with everybody. And using LinkedIn as an example, people are really quick to send LinkedIn and Facebook requests to every single person they've either met or they've heard of or whatever. I have a little rule when it comes to those two pieces of social media, and that is I don't connect to somebody I haven't had a real conversation with. So I call it the coffee, meal, or beer rule. I get pushback on that, and I'm like, they're like, "That's impossible. You're connected to well over 1,000 or 1,500 people." And my answer is I drink a lot of beer.
Or coffee or meals.
Yeah, or this counts, right? We're going to have a 15 or 20-minute conversation here on your podcast. That's a foundation for something. I could call you in 6 months and say, "Hey, I was on your show." You're going to remember who I am, as opposed to I saw a speaker in an audience and I linked to him on LinkedIn and now that matters. That person's never going to do anything for you or with you.
So have you always been this a systems kind of guy? Because what you're saying really does it sounds like the base of that, the root of that really comes from a system that you've created. I mean, or just someone that's extremely organized and disciplined. I would have a hard time not that it's not a great way. It really is a great way. And I wish I could lead my life that way. I just find I get off track a lot when things get busy. So is that part of the problem that we all experience? Is this, we're just so busy? You know, I said to my wife, actually, I think either yesterday or today, if it wasn't for my customers and my podcast and my email, man, I could just get my job done, forgetting that those are my job.
Well, so I love that you think that I'm organized or I have systems. Doug, I couldn't be freaking more not organized in systems. I am such a, oh my God, there's a squirrel.
Right.
So
right.
It is one of those things that it has to be a conscious part of your life that you acknowledge that, you know, these shortcuts that we've created through social media, they're great. I use them. I'm not dissing any of it, but we have to make a choice. And so everything in life comes down to making choices. And you bring up a really key word. You go, oh, we get so busy. Doug, I think that busy has become a faux badge of honor in our society. I mean, you walk down the street in whatever city you live in, you run into an old friend and you say, oh my God, Bobby, how are you? What are the first words out of his mouth? He says, oh my gosh, Doug, I am so busy. And then he proceeds to recite his calendar to you. Like somehow that's going to make him seem really cool that he has every half hour of his calendar properly filled. And it's almost annoying. But then he says, so Doug, how are you? And how do you respond? I'm so busy too.
I'm so right. Exactly.
It becomes a competition. And I think that this competition of I'm so busy is really driving people apart, not pulling people together. So when I run into somebody and they say, Thom, how are you doing? My answer is, I'm so fortunate. And then maybe I tell them why. And part of the reason I'm fortunate is my calendar's full with really cool things that I'm doing. And they're like, well, isn't that the same thing? And I said, no, because no one has ever gotten into a competition to prove they're more fortunate. And if they did, I don't know that that's a bad thing.
You know, it's interesting. I want to go from the systems talk for a second, just about coaching, because it sounds like all of the advice that you're providing, or a lot of the advice that you've just provided and information, really does probably becomes a part of the coaching that you offer, either on an individual basis or on a group basis. My wife, and again, I just brought her up a moment ago. You may not have be a listener to the show, but I refer to my wife a lot, just because I've had two of them through the course of my lifetime. So I'm making sure the second one actually has done a lot of things right for me. She totally believes in coaching, so much so that she won't, God bless her, let me help her. So she's the smart one. She knows if she spends a few bucks and sets some goals with her coach, she has someone to be held accountable to. Is that what drives people to coaching, or is it is it something else? I mean, it seems to me accountability is worth the dollars that you spend. Is that something that drives a lot of customers to you?
Yeah, and you know, my coaching stuff is a sideline for me, so I've never really studied necessarily what drives people to wanting to work with me. But I will say from my own experience, and I have worked with individual business coaches, sort of life coach types, and I've participated in some of these group coaching things that I founded the Cool Things Project around, sort of getting a group of people together to share. And I'm involved with a mastermind group that has really changed my career. And a mastermind group is really just free coaching amongst a group of people. Yeah. I'm in this group, and there's 4 of us total. So there's 3 other professional speakers. And we all do different things, but we all have grown our businesses. One guy tripled his business in 3 years. I wish that had been me. But we get together, and we basically – we rent a house on Airbnb somewhere, and we fly every 6 months to 8 months. We fly somewhere, like we'll be in Phoenix this month, and we go somewhere and we move into this Airbnb for 2 nights, and everybody gets 3 to 4 hours to be kind of on the hot seat. And you essentially open up what you've been doing for the last 6 months. We talk about numbers, we talk about everything, and then the other 3 just pounce on you and push you and all that. But the next time we show up, there's notes. So it's not like, okay, now here's my new problems. It's no, first of all, how did you take care of the old problems? And one of the guys, his business is on fire. There's not a lot of advice we can give him. But at the same time, he has gotten into a great relationship with a woman who has 2 kids, and he's in his 40s and never had kids. So his life is very different. And 2 of the 4 of us in the group have teenagers. And so part of our group coaching is, you know, how do you live your life? I mean, we're talking about things in our personal lives, very open and raw. And it's that accountability and it's that trust that's built amongst people, whether it's one-on-one with a coach or the group that I do. I mean, the people who come regularly to the Monday night calls have become friends with each other. And there's value in that because when you have a relationship, accountability just comes along with it.
It's true. It is really very much about the relationship. Without that relationship, it makes the rest of it just seem like there potentially is an agenda. And if you have a relationship and a friendship with somebody, it does not come across as any agenda at all. It truly is, I just want to help you.
Yeah, that's right. And it's when people really want to help you, all of a sudden you care more about them too. So that's part of what I teach people is, people show up to network and they think, oh, I can meet Doug. Doug could totally help me. Well, that's the backwards thing. When you show up at an event, whether it's a conference or your Chamber of Commerce event, I teach people go in with the attitude of, who can I impact today? And if you do that for a year, every time you go somewhere, all of a sudden people are going to be, how come everyone helps you, Doug? Everywhere you go, people are giving you leads and helping you out. Well, it's because you set the stage that this is what our relationship will be.
What's so awesome about having a podcast, and you've experienced this, I'm sure, as well, is that it seems like a lot of the guests that have come on this show, on the Nice Guys on Business podcast, as well as on your show, I'm sure, they become a part of your growth. I mean, they really do. They are the ones that send me the projects. They're the ones that find clients for me. They're the ones that find additional guests for me. They're the ones that end up buying the products and the services that I offer. And that really was not an original intent of even having the podcast. It was really more about sharing my knowledge and sharing the knowledge of the guests that I have with the world. But have you found the same thing with the guests on your show?
Oh, Doug, you're so right on, and you're preaching to the choir on this one, because I have actually been hired to be the speaker or the master of ceremonies at a couple of conferences from people who discovered me through my podcast. And then they're at work and they're having a all hands meeting or a client conference. And they're like talking about, oh, who could be the master of ceremonies? And they're like, I listened to this guy, and they'll introduce the boss to me and it'll connect. And that was sort of not something I had thought about, that I would actually get speaking business from having this podcast. But the other thing is the guests who are on my show, some of them have actually become friends of mine. So it's been very interesting. I think it's the best networking tool I've ever had, and I've been teaching people how to connect in business for over a decade.
Oh, it is totally a great connection tool and a network builder, and not just network through the podcast, but it also helps you with your social outreach too, and it helps you build your audience. There's so many benefits to having a podcast. Let me head over to your site for a second. On your site, I see 11 publications plus your blog and your podcast. My question is this, and maybe this is one that people ask me a lot, and I don't really have the answer to it, and I know you have the answer for your own self, but how do you find the time to do it all? Can we chat for a moment just about balance in one's life as a part of being an entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, it's hard. Now, the good news for me is I love my business. I mean, that's my hobby. So if I could, write, or I could do my podcast, or I could go speak at a conference, for free, if I was a trust fund kid, I would do those things. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's really exciting. So when I wrote my first book, I had a new baby at the time who she's now 15 years old. But when she was 1 to 2 years old, she was 2.5 before she ever slept through the night a single time, which meant that we were just exhausted for, several years. But what happened is that I'm the type of guy who 5 a.m, if you wake me, I'm not going back to sleep. If you wake me at 2, I'm back in sleep in a minute. But I would get up with her at 5 a.m, give her a bottle, put her back down, and now it's 5:30. And I don't have to leave out a job at the time. I didn't have to leave to work till 7:30 or 8. So I would write for an hour every day. So I joke that the first book never would have happened if Kate had been a great sleeper, because I had an hour and a half every morning before anybody else was up where I could punch out, a couple hours. So that's sort of how I wrote. I used to write a lot. I don't write as much now, but I would write every morning. And so I got my writing done in the morning. But, part of it is I have a real supportive wife. I mean, you can't be a professional speaker if you're expected home for dinner every night at 5:30, because I did 35 trips last year that averaged 2 to 3 nights. So I'm gone 100 plus nights a year. And, when the kids were little, I wasn't doing this yet, but it would have been impossible. But one kid's in college, and so she doesn't care what I do. And the other kid is a 15-year-old high school student. I don't think she cares much what I do. So my wife is really supportive. I call her the CEO of the house. And, she said, I wouldn't have chosen that you work on the road this month, but I'm so happy doing what I'm doing. She's like, go take that gig. It's a, 4-day master of ceremonies gig. Go, you're going to like it. So part of it is having the right support around you. and the right people. And then this mastermind group that I've had for the last 3 years, they really keep me focused so that I'm not as squirrel prone as maybe I naturally would be. So all of that combined.
So talk to the entrepreneurial community that is listening and that's the audience of this show. And much of what I read and see about you and the work that you're doing, you spend a lot of time talking about business development, whether it's selling or prospecting, negotiating. It's almost like without sales, nothing happens. And I kind of live by that strategy as well, or that belief as well. Do you feel selling is an area that must be focused on as priority number one, or is there another process or system that you think should be focused on?
No, so I started my career as a sales guy, right? I mean, that's what I did. I was a fully commissioned advertising salesperson, and I made really good money. But if I didn't sell, I didn't eat. So I believe that is the mantra of every organization. And really, like, I work a lot with membership associations, and I tell them the same thing. It's like, yeah, you're a trade association, but if you don't get members, you don't eat. So if you don't sell, you don't eat. And then I became the marketing guy early in my career, a marketing person for a law firm. And lawyers, like back in that day, 15, 16 years ago, you weren't allowed to say the word sales because that was like blasphemy for the profession of law to sell. So when I was in it, did they start calling it business development. But the reality of it is it's sales. And I don't care if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you run a trade association, if you're a plumber, if you don't have paying clients, you don't have money coming in the door, then you're going to have skinny kids. You're going to have to close the door and go do something else. So I really, really believe that sales is the heart of every single business. And if you don't like to sell, that's okay. You don't have to like it. You have to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah, and I work with people all the time that it's like we need to be focused on getting business. And I've been working for myself as sort of a full-fledged solopreneur for 8 years, and it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to have a lot of other stuff to do. But if I'm not focused on outbound sales, I end up having a smaller quarter than I could have otherwise had. So you just have to embrace it, and that's one of the things that I'm really big on is, you have to do it, and you can't outsource it when you're starting. You're the guy, so you just got to do it.
Well, you mentioned something as a solopreneur, and that's the same way that I run my business too. Very, very lean, and I it's by choice that I'm not looking for a staff. I like to know that if I am on vacation, I don't have to worry about paying somebody that is at home. Now, nobody else is doing my job while I'm on vacation, but that's okay too. So help me for a moment, because a number of audience community members in the Nice Guy community are that as well. They're solopreneurs. They're just about to leave their job, let's say. What advice can you offer to someone looking to leave their job and step out on their own? Is there a little tidbit that you can help get them over that pain edge?
Well, let me start off by telling you what happened to me 8 years ago. I had a plan, and my boss knew about it and supported it. In fact, she paid me a little lower salary and gave me an extra 3 weeks vacation so I could pursue this business of being a speaker and a master of ceremonies. Mm-hmm. And I was going to save up $100,000 in the bank so that I could go and have a runway. And then the recession hit, and that boss, as great as she was, had to lay off half her staff. And to her credit, she saved her company. It's bigger and stronger than ever. But on April 1st, 2009, I was laid off, and I had about $20,000 in the bank. And I called my wife, and I said, I'm starting this business. I got laid off. I'm starting today. We didn't have $100,000 for, a runway that could buy us a year or two, because I figured, if I needed to make roughly 100 to survive, if I had 50 in the bank a year, maybe I could make 50 a year for a couple of years and then ramp it. And that was sort of my plan. Well, it turns out plans don't work anyway. So, if you want to do it, realize that it's going to take longer and be more expensive. I mean, I hemorrhaged cash for 3.5 years. It wasn't 2 years. And I ran up credit card debt, and we ran through that little savings that I had and then our personal savings. And, one day it was like, is this going to work? It had been over 3 years, and we were having discussions. The recession was less, by 2011 or 12. And it was like, all right, maybe I have to go get a job. And then suddenly the business started to happen. So realize that your runway is not what you think it's going to be. For many people, it's faster. For most people, it is a lot longer. And you have to have that tolerance for the fact that if you hemorrhage through all your cash and build up credit cards, you have to have a belief in yourself, because, if I had stopped, I could have gone and gotten a corporate job again, and I would have been very successful at it. But I just kept going and going and going and going. And I had some proof that it was working. I wasn't chasing anything down a rabbit hole. But my advice is realize that it's not going to be wine and roses. It's going to be a lot of sacrifice, and it's going to be a lot of late nights, and there's going to be some tears.
I don't know why anybody actually thinks that it's ever going to be as fast or faster than they originally had planned. It never is that way. You know, for me, it has taken, and I'm still a work in progress. Since 2013, when I originally came up with the idea of making this career reinvention. And if I knew now what I knew back then, I probably wouldn't have. I don't know if I would have done it, because there is so much struggle that's involved. But where I am right now, I love it. I could not imagine doing anything different than what I'm doing right now.
So if I knew then what I knew now, I would totally do it. I just would have spent less time bitching to. And my best friend and I own a publishing company together on the side. And I mean, he has heard me complain about money until he just won't even listen anymore. But, it took 3 or 4 years. And then it took another 4 years to pay off the debt. So, I'm 8 years into my business, and it's like I'm starting fresh.
Totally get it. All right, Thom, I need you to take off your business or your speaker's hat and your group coach hat for a second, and just put on your entrepreneur hat to answer this what I'll call the rapid fire Q&A round. There's 5 questions. Spend maybe 15 or 20 seconds answering each question. I don't prep, just Nice Guy Community, so you're aware. I don't prep any of the guests for these questions just because I want to know what is your first response. So are you ready to roll, Thom?
I'm ready, Doug.
All right, here we go. So be relatable. What do you suck at?
Finances. I have to do them, and I end up having to get an accountant to have to fix everything. I suck at the detail of both my QuickBooks and projecting money.
Okay. And I don't think that is uncommon. I think that that's probably, and as a guy that's a solopreneur who you have to do everything. So there are going to be certain things that you suck at, and that's a good one. Be transparent. How did you pay your bills when you first got going? It sounds like you used a lot of credit cards.
It was credit cards. It was personal savings. It was a line of credit on our house. It was every beg, borrow, and steal. Yeah, just whatever I could.
Okay, but what do you do as an entrepreneur that's as good as it gets?
I'm really good at following up with people as far as like when I meet someone new, I send handwritten notes like nobody you've ever met. I send over 500 handwritten notes a year. And do they all pay off? No, but several of my clients have said, I use him because he took the extra step. He didn't just, copy paste me an email. He sent me a handwritten note saying how great it was to meet me at that conference or whatever. And I believe that matters deeply.
Nobody is sending out handwritten notes, or very few people are. The successful people do, and it is a great characteristic. It's a great responsibility, and I think it's something that more people should do. I wish I did it more. I do it, but not quite to the tune of 500 a year. I probably end up sending 4 or 5 of them a month, which is well under 100 a year. But I still do what I can. I think I do what I can. Next one, be humble. What experts did you need to call upon to make shit happen when shit wasn't happening in the beginning?
The greatest thing I ever did for my career early on was I joined the National Speakers Association. And not that the association itself did anything for me, but it got me around people who were living the life I wanted to live. And I called on people who were working speakers, not famous ones. It's not like Tony Robbins helped me, but I called on people who were legitimately making $200,000 and $300,000 a year in the career I wanted to do. And I befriended them, and they opened up so many doors and shared amazing amounts of information.
That's great. As a business owner and entrepreneur, put them into priority order. Employees, customers, products, systems.
Say it one more time.
Sure. Put these into priority order. Employees, customers, products, systems.
Customers, products, systems, employees.
Nice. It's interesting. So tell me why you put customers at the forefront.
Because without it just comes from being a sales guy, right? And a services person. If it's not for the customer, they have a lot of choices when they're trying to hire a master of ceremonies or a speaker or someone who wants to join a group coaching program. They have so many choices. And if it's not about them, they're going to go to the person who makes them feel it's about them. And so I just think that we have to start, as I said, we have to start with sales, which means we have to start with the customer.
Yeah, that's good. Good points.
I'll tell you one thing. There's a lot of people who have crappier products who win for that reason.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And you could have a great marketing program or have a great customer experience and a crappy product and still beat your competition almost every time just because you're creating an amazing customer experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that is it for the formal Q&A. So let me ask you a question. Do you have your cell phone anywhere near you?
I do.
Great. Do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
Oh my God, I have an iPhone. Who the hell do you think I am? I mean, we've spent 20 minutes together.
Wait, could you say that again? I'm not going to step on you because I'm going to run that at the beginning of the show. So could you just say that what you just said one more time? Do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
I have an iPhone, Doug. I mean, we spent 20 minutes together. Who the hell do you think I am? Of course I have an iPhone.
Perfect. Strickland's going to love that. He's the co-host of the show, and the guy that does all the editing, he's going to hate that. That'll go right at the top of the show, I have a feeling. Okay, so on your phone, go to your texting app for a moment. What is the last text message you sent and received?
Let's see. The last one I sent, there's a group of local speakers here in Austin. I have sort of a second mastermind group with 3 other speakers and coaches here in town. And the last text I received said, it was from Patty, and it said, "It was great to see all of you last night. Safe travels to everybody who is off giving speeches, and vibrant health, joy, and prosperity to each of you. Wow. XOXO." Oh, we got an XOXO. I'm always an XOXO kind of guy. That's perfect. All right, and go to your. Go ahead. I heard you say one time you use a lot of XOs and exclamation points. And I have a friend who's a lawyer who told me that a law professor told him, you get 3 exclamation points in your life. Use them well. And
well, God, that's the legal side.
I used 3 of them today.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you know what? Screw that person. It was a legal guy anyway. Head over to your photo app for a moment and tell me what your last picture was that you took.
Oh, it's dirty. No, it's not.
Hey, we had a dominatrix on the show, and it actually was a dirty photo, and she.
Callie, I know one.
I don't know any other dominatrix except for the one that was on my show. Do you know several of them, Thom?
No, but it is funny. There's one who is a professional speaker who I know through the industry, and it's just kind of funny that I know one. It's like, really? I'm the squarest guy in the world, and I have a friend who that's what she does.
Interesting. So what's the last picture you took? We can delay that no longer.
It's a picture of my daughter Kate and I. My wife was off on a museum trip in Los Angeles with some friends, and my daughter Kate and I this weekend went to a restaurant in Dripping Springs, Texas called Pius, and it is the best pizza you will ever have on the planet. And I had to take a picture because we were at Pius, and Pius is awesome.
Interesting to know. All right. Anything else that you do, how can they get in touch with you?
Everything is at thomsinger.com. That's THOMSINGER.com.
Awesome. Nice guy community. Never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks, Thom Singer, for being a part of the show today, and we're looking forward to. I'm looking forward to listen to your podcast more because it is. I love your beginning. It's kind of like a jingly kind of thing. It kind of feels like almost like the Apple commercial. I don't know if you knew. Da 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 da. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So, nice guy community. We'll make sure we put links in the show notes for Tom's. Never underestimate the power of nice. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Call 4242 DJ Doug and record an intro for the show to hear on a future episode. Say anything you want. Hell, take my job. I'm getting sick of these guys anyway. We still rolling? Don't tell him I said that.